are persecuted in the cause of right, the kingdom of heaven is theirs. Blessed are you when you suffer insults and persecution and calumnies of every kind for my sake. Exult and be glad, for you have a rich reward in heaven. In the same way they persecuted the prophets before you. There ended the lesson. Operational area larger than the continent of Africa and some 12,000 miles from Britain was in 1945 the context of some of the most vicious fighting of World War II. It involved Britain's largest naval forces ever, which consisted of more than 600 ships of the British, Pacific and East Indian fleets. There were some 250,000 men ashore and afloat from all parts of the British Empire and Commonwealth, supplemented by crews and ships from European allies and others. Together with the U.S. Pacific Fleet, and indeed under the command of its Admiral Chester W. Nimitz, the British fleet outmatched, outmaneuvered, and brought final defeat to the Imperial Japanese Navy. They won through to achieve the final victory against a power as demonic as that which had been crushed in Europe a few months earlier. Meeting today to recall those events of 50 years ago provides for many here the opportunity of happy reunions with former shipmates, friends, and families, and our visitors from the United States of America, as well as from all parts of the Commonwealth, are particularly welcome. For it was through international cooperation, as well as bravery of the highest order, that the Allies won the war, and our friendship continues to be precious. Nothing brings greater international stability or personal security than friendship. And nothing creates friendship more readily than shared experiences, especially if they are of the harshest kind. 4-inch armor plate decks were obviously more resistant to attack by kamikaze aircraft than traditional teaks. But for the men afloat, sweltering heat and humidity were the norm, together with shortages of fresh water and fresh vegetables, in spite of the astonishing achievements of the fleet train, the best efforts of the ever-faithful nappy, and the great generosity particularly of the people of Australia and New Zealand. Overcrowding and general discomfort led often to outbreaks of prickly heat, rashes, boils, and gastroenteritis in an environmental hell which we who were not there cannot begin to imagine. Typhoons, unforgettable by those who experienced them, only added to the suffering. Yet, shared endurance under adverse conditions and a commitment to defeat a common enemy created bonds and affection between people of widely differing backgrounds, cultures, and abilities. This service, in the context of a reunion weekend then, is a celebration first of friendship and a giving of thanks to God for the courage, morale, and comradeship of those who served in the fleets of the East Indies and the Pacific. But as well as celebration and thanksgiving, there is remembrance. Remembrance particularly of those whose lives were destroyed, disabled, or disfigured in that theatre of war, and of those who since then have passed to their rest. All of us, but especially their families and friends, owe it to them to keep their names and memories alive. Remembering is important too for people yet to come, and for 2 generations now who have been born without either knowledge or experience of world war. Even if its horrors and brutality cannot be adequately conveyed to others, at least there must always be the reminder that it happened, that even great and civilized nations are capable of being led into unbelievable evil by leaders who are mad or wicked. As His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh has written in the booklet published by the Royal Navy to accompany this weekend, this human tragedy and human achievement must never be forgotten. Why not? Certainly not because of vindictiveness, but in order to learn from that particular chapter in human history. We remember in order to safeguard the inheritance of freedom we have received from those who at the time believed themselves to have been forgotten by the rest of the free world. But as the writer of the first reading puts it, these were men of mercy whose righteous deeds have not been forgotten. Their prosperity will remain with their descendants and their inheritance for their children only inasmuch as we, their successors, and those who follow us, are vigilant of the signs of any kind of tyranny, and are ready to defeat it wherever it appears, far or near. For freedom, both for nations and for individuals, is an elusive quality, and it calls for the greatest degree of courage, cooperation, and common purpose on the part of its defenders, not to mention the highest moral standards and very considerable self-discipline. That is surely why Christ, in our second reading, calls peacemakers the children of God, and he praises the bereaved, and also those who are humble, gentle, merciful, pure in heart, and single-minded in the cause of right, especially if that brings them insults and persecution. These qualities, listed in his teaching, are not only characteristic of the kingdom of God, they provide also the foundation for our own civilization. The civilization which servicemen and civilians alike fought and died to preserve